Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We're just going to there's still lots of people joining the call, so we'll give everyone a few minutes just to join, and then we'll get going on the presentation. I believe there's an opportunity, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat and we can come to them at the end. Give everyone a few minutes. I think we'll give everyone one more minute and then we'll get moving. I think, Ancuta, if you're ready, people can continue to join as we run through. So hopefully everyone can see my slides. As I mentioned, we'll have some times for questions at the end. Please send them through. We'll do our best to answer them at the end of the webinar. So thanks very much for your time, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. We thought it'd be a really great opportunity to share with some of yourselves some of what we know about the version 7 updates that are coming. So just a little more about us. So you've got myself, Becky Armstrong, today. So I'm associate here at 8 Versa. Been here for just over 10 years now, and I head up the environmental assessment team, so anything BREEAM related or any other green certification. We've got a great team that I look after, and we've also got Ancuta, who's our most senior member in the assessment team. Again, loads of experience, any BREEAM projects, she's your person to go to, specialises in BREEAM in use as well. So we are going to a bit more about us as well for 8 Versa. So we were established over 16 years ago, very much born out of the sort of built environment, working on lots of assessment methodologies, so code as it was then, and BREEAM, eco homes, etc. And we've sort of grown over the years to work on many other areas. So we don't do loads in terms of energy performance. Anything related to the built environment. We've got a whole ecology team as well. And in more recent years, we've moved to become 8 Versa, and we've do a lot more on the corporate side of things. So we support organisations with their sort of footprinting strategies or their sustainability strategies at the corporate and organisational level. We also do footprinting for events and products, and we have our whole sort of assurance team as well to support that. But within the built environment, it's very much where we grew from. So aside from our assessment team, we do, as I mentioned, all the assessment methodologies: BREEAM, Lead Well, Fit Well, Active Score, etc. We have a whole specialist team that support us, which is useful not only for yourselves as clients or design team members, but also for us as assessors, that we have. I sit next to an ecologist, which comes in very handy when I've got some troublesome ecology credits to deal with. We also have air quality specialists, embodied carbon LCA assessors. We've got energy, daylighting, thermal comfort specialists as well. So we really do sort of cover the whole spectrum of sustainability, which is really useful if you want to come to one sustainability consultant. We can try and support you with everything that in terms of sustainability that falls within that assessment methodology. I think I've covered a lot of this, but it's fair to say that we've worked on a lot of BREEAM assessments. I think we just tipped 1,000 certificates this year, and we managed to certify a project last year with 100%, which we're really proud of. So yeah, we work on a whole range of projects, from large scale commercial properties to sort of smaller domestic refurbishments. So lots of experience, and always happy to help on various projects. So the plan for this afternoon even is to give you a bit of an introduction, set the scene of BREEAM version 7 and what it means, what to think about moving forwards. Ancuta is then going to give us some more technical updates on what we can expect to see with some of the new credits, and some of the updates to the existing credits as we know them. And then what we anticipate an example of the potential score impact could be, and then where we can take this forward. Conscious that this is very much based on the draft manual, so there are some caveats to note, but we'll run through those as we go through. So setting the scene, ultimately BREEAM has always updated its versions over the years. Used to do this sort of every 3 to 4 years was the aim, but more recently we've shifted from sort of the 2018 update for new construction to a version. The idea, my understanding, being that BREEAM starts to align all of its methodologies into one single version. So what we've seen recently is that the current version for refurbishment was updated in 2014, so it is a really outdated methodology now. And as new construction has gone through 2 further iterations since then, the gap is getting bigger between new construction and refurbishment, and that's the same in the international methodology as well. BREEAM in use has been updated more recently, so that better aligns with new construction, but there are still quite a few differences between the schemes. So the idea behind version 7 is all of the methodologies will be updated to align together. And my understanding moving forward is then hopefully the next version, version 8, will potentially be a smaller update, but it will align across all of these methodologies. So this family of schemes will start to align better together. The other key update is that, so version 7, new construction, is very much what we'll focus on today. But we understand that when version 7 for refurbishment and fit out and is launched later on in this year, they will be separate schemes. So at the moment they're a combined scheme. Our understanding is that the refurbishment scheme will follow, and there will be a separate, more bespoke sort of fit out version 7, which will be better aligned to fit out only assessments. And in use, I believe, will be the final version to be launched. But the idea is that they should all fit nicely together. So these dates are subject to move, but this is what we understand a sort of vague timeline to be. So we received the draft version 7 new construction manual back in the summer. It was open for a period of feedback. And at the moment, we're in a stage where the platform testing is going to be carried out. It's been through extensive testing with the BRE, but it's going to be open to assessor testing process, I believe, in the coming weeks, with the final version of the manual to be released in April is what we're hoping for. And then once the sort of any further updates on the platform happen, we hope that the scheme will go live in July. So we've been told the first half of 2025. We can hope for new construction version 7 to be live. Then, as I mentioned, refurbishment, possibly a couple of months later, period of consultation, and then the same for the BREEAM in use. Key thing to note here is if there are any schemes that you would like to continue under version 6, there will be a 3-month overlap between version 7 going live and version 6 being closed for new registrations, unless there is a, as with previous versions, if there is a planning requirement or something written in contract to say it has to be under version 6, there's always a little bit of flexibility there, but ultimately it's key to remember those 3 months of overlap. So the platform, we haven't, hopefully in the next, as I say, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to help with some of the testing of this. But the idea behind the platform, it's something that we have seen as assessors and we've used for a long time, the BREEAM projects as it's called at the moment. But the idea of the new BREEAM platform is it's going to be accessible for clients as well. So any project where you're working on multiple projects as a developer or client, you should be able to access your portfolio of projects, and these can be from different assessors, and you can start to build up a picture of what your portfolio looks like in terms of BREEAM. The great thing about this is we'll be able to access or see an asset over its life cycle. So this is very much the way that BRE are trying to move, aligning version 7 across all the different methodology types, but also making it accessible for clients to see their portfolio as well. There's still some work to be done there and some testing, etc. But our understanding is that, for example, if we do a new construction assessment and a year down the line or after PC, a client decides they want to do a BREEAM in use assessment on it, there will already be a new construction asset available to them on BREEAM projects. There's obviously some work to be done in terms of accessibility and who sort of ownership of that asset on BREEAM projects. But the idea is that you should be able to access some of that information or have some of that data available to you once the asset has already been through a certification process with BRE. So the key updates that we're going to focus on are there's been a big shift or push towards decarbonisation, which we know there is across the industry anyway, but BRE have recognised that, and there is a focus shift on decarbonisation. There is also a big increase in operational performance. So BREEAM has very much been based on sort of a theoretical design, and obviously we verify what has been built in construction, but in terms of, for example, energy output, it's very much been a theoretical process. So this is just to start to close that performance gap and encourage this consideration of how it will perform in operation, and it goes even further to encourage clients to make commitments for future disclosures and setting targets and carrying out in-use monitoring as well to start to there's been a bit of that in previous versions, but it just takes it that step forward to see if we can start to close this loop and see if what we've designed is working as we expect it to be. There's also alignment across statutory requirements, so there's alignment with BNG metrics and also some other methodologies like EU taxonomy and GRESB reporting, which Ancuta will talk about in a bit more detail. And then a sort of mix or a reshuffle of the structure of the health and well-being lighting performance, which again we'll talk about in a bit more detail. So there has been a change in some of the minimum requirements. All the previous minimum requirements still stand. These are just focused on the new ones, which reflect these changes that I've mentioned in terms of this push towards decarbonisation and importance on operational performance. So they have introduced minimum standards for operational energy commitments, 3 credits for excellent and 5 for outstanding. Also, LCA becomes a minimum standard for any project stage for excellent and full 5 credits for LCA, and we'll go through those in a bit more detail. There are also the new introduction of no refrigerant use across both of excellent and outstanding, and also the introduction of no fossil fuels for an outstanding rating, which could become a bit of a challenge for a scheme that was potentially running off an older energy centre, or where you're refurbishing. We don't exactly know what this will look like for the refurbishment fit out, but if there is an existing energy strategy that has fossil fuels, that's something to consider on future developments. Ultimately, LCA and operational energy become quite fundamental moving forwards in the methodology. It's also worth noting, for international, a smoking ban is required in an asset for very good or above, but also that for Shell only assessments, you wouldn't be able to achieve an outstanding rating because of this operational energy performance mandatory requirement. There's also been an update to the weightings and therefore the credit values. This comes with a big caveat because they are this summary is based on draft weightings. We haven't had the final weightings for fully fitted. This is based on a fully fitted office, I believe, but we haven't had the final weightings for Shell and Core. But ultimately, what it did highlight is that there are the value of an energy credit has dropped slightly, or quite a lot actually, but there are more credits available to us. So although the weightings changed, there's kind of, I think, almost double the number of credits available, not quite double, but not far off. And also this sort of increase in the value of for materials and waste, so this push to sort of decarbonisation is really noticed as well in this change in credit value. The majority of others have stayed relatively similar from what we can see, from what we know at the moment. And another shift, which we're still BRE yet to give sort of full details on, but we understand that there's going to be a move from where you've got a mixed use building that perhaps has some retail on the ground floor with offices above, or a restaurant function. Sometimes we end up doing 2, 3, maybe even 4 assessments on a single building, which has been sort of a reoccurring issue that's been raised with the BRE. They've listened and they've looked at how the platform and version 7 can adapt to that, to start pulling everything back into sort of assessing it at the asset level, especially when there's a smaller use requirement. So when there is one floor that's retail across a larger building. We don't fully know what that will look like at the moment. I believe BRE is still working on that, but our understanding is there will be an opportunity to select different building types within a single assessment, and you will have to put in the area of that separate building type space, and there will be some area weighted calculations going on in the background to aid how the number of credits are awarded across different credit issues. My understanding is HQM, anything domestic will stay domestic under home quality mark. But for other mixed use buildings, there may start to be a bit more flexibility without necessarily going down the bespoke route or having multiple assessments. So I will hand over to Ancuta.
Thank you, Becky. We try to extract the key changes from BREEAM version 7, and as BRE advised, and also what we spotted is that there is a cross alignment between key sustainability frameworks. We now understand that BREEAM version 7 will have a better alignment with EU taxonomy in terms of climate change and resource protection and biodiversity restoration. Also, there are some alignment with pollution prevention. Other key alignments are related to GRESB, and hopefully with the new BREEAM in use version 7, we will see more measures in GRESB that are covered by BREEAM in use. We also spotted some alignment with well and lead aspects, and there are some exemplary operational aspects that will help us in neighbors or BREEAM in use. So yeah, this is the overall alignment that we wanted to outline. Next thing we wanted to outline about the alignment between BREEAM version 7 and the biodiversity net gain and statutory requirements. We understand that there will be some minor changes in the ecology methodology, and now the calculation will align with biodiversity net calculation. Also, the project will be rewarded for off-site enhancement in case there will be some ongoing maintenance measures in place. Yeah, for sure, the project can be rewarded for this. Similarly with the previous scheme, the key thing to get the maximum ecology credits is to engage with a specialist, with an ecologist early enough to influence the design process, incorporate their consideration, and also monitor all the improvements that can be done during construction, during design and construction. Another key change that we would like to outline is in terms of health and well-being and comfort of the occupant. The significant changes regarding natural light and daylighting requirements. Previously, the calculation was done based on average daylight factor, but now BRE will set up a new methodology and will require dynamic simulation using regional weather file. This will give us the more accurate result, and yeah, will add value to our project. The key things to maximize the credits is to make sure that we will do a simulation early enough to influence the design, and we will have good measures in optimizing glazing strategy and floor layout. Yeah, this is the overall update in terms of the daylight. In terms of the artificial light, this is a minor change compared with the previous credits. Now we have the capacity to award part of the internal and external lighting credits. Now we have one separate credit for zoning and occupant control, and the exemplary credit for lighting control, dimming switches. This was the previous in the previous scheme, so yeah, there is no major change in credit aim. Key aspect is about the new prerequisite that is included in the scheme. This new prerequisite will ask all lighting types to be designed to avoid flicker and stroboscopic effects, and we have in the draft manual some methodology to make sure that the design team can achieve this prerequisite. Another key item, another key aspect in terms of health and well-being of the occupant is the introduction of this new credit for non-visual effects of light. This one is an alignment with well. We've seen some aspects in well, and is focusing on circadian life. All building areas should have a proper lux level for at least 4 hours during the day, and the lighting system and controls should allow automatic adjustment of color. Next key items that we try to summarize are related to embodied carbon. MATO 1 life cycle assessment has been restructured, and we have new we have separate stages where we can achieve them independent credits. We have new requirements for excellent and outstanding. We need to make sure that for excellent we will have a life cycle assessment study carry out at least at stage 4 for 1 credit, or at stage 2 for 2 credits, or all stages to maximize the outstanding. There will be new benchmark comparison in the BREEAM V7 manual, and another key change that we would like to outline is about the deadline submission. Now LCA should be submitted within 20 days of planning.
I think it's worth sorry, just
Please, sorry.
worth noting that sometimes historically where we've missed out on the early stage LCA, we've struggled to pick up that gap because once the stage 2 was missed, it was difficult to get the maximum number of credits. So this is a really positive update from the BRE to split out these stages, and also the introduction of the as-built LCA aligns with what we're doing with London projects or projects based in London in terms of aligning with whole life carbon. But it does mean if that you're targeting outstanding, we really do need to make sure that we do that initial concept design stage. So there is a little bit more flexibility that we don't have to carry out the LCA pre-planning. But yeah, we've only got 20 days, so there's still a little bit, push to make sure we're addressing it early enough in the project. But there is, if an excellent is required for planning, there is a bit of flexibility if, as BREEAM assessors were appointed a little later, or the LCA process isn't carried out till a little later. In terms of benchmarks, these still haven't been released by the BRE, so we don't know exactly what the benchmarks are looking like, but from recent update, the BRE confirmed that they are going to align with the UK Net Zero Carbon Building Standard and LETI guidelines. The BRE, as I understand it, were on the sort of steering group for the UK Net Zero Carbon Building Standards. So our hope is there will be some alignment there between the two. But hopefully once the final version of the manual is released, we'll have a better understanding of how achievable these benchmarks are. Because, for example, not all the building types are even available on, from what we know, on these carbon limits in terms of shell and core fully fitted options. So there's still a little unknown there, but we have a little better understanding that it's likely to align with current guidelines, which is really positive. And back to you, Ancuta.
Thank you. So yeah, there are major updates on the energy and carbon. As Becky mentioned, the BREEAM version 7 tried to create a clear pathway for decarbonization. The key aspects that are changed for the energy performance are there are minor changes to the methodology. The aim of these changes is to provide more clarity and is to the assessment. The BREEAM version 7 will reduce the emphasis for demanding metric, and the structure will be similar with the old version. At this stage, at this credit, also we can carry out the energy performance modeling and carry out the BRACL documents where there are 9 credits available. And for the projects that goes above and beyond, there are also some exemplary credits, 3 exemplary credits. Another change for this section for the energy performance is that we will be available to extract an output, and those reports can be used for EU taxonomy. So yeah, that was for the energy performance. For low carbon design, this credit is quite similar with the previous one, but there is a change in credit structure, and there are some specific thresholds set up. We will be able to get 1 credit if we are going to carry out building form optimization early enough in the process to influence the design. There are available another 2 credits for analysis the alternative fabric specification, and here, depending on the percentage of energy demand reduction, we can get 1 or 2 credits. Another key update is about low zero carbon technology. So far, the air source heat pump was recognized like a low zero carbon technology, but in the new version, this will not be accepted. So we need to look after other technologies. And the last credit under this section is regarding the low zero carbon technology targets, where depending on the technology that will be designed and installed, we can achieve 1 credit. For the PV, we have some specific threshold, and for any other technology, also we need to generate a specific amount of energy in order for this credit to be awarded. A new credit in version 7 is regarding flexible demand response. This is an alignment with BREEAM in use credit, and the project is rewarded depending on the system that are in scope in the project and that have the capability of a flexible demand response. There is also an exemplary credit that can be achieved depending on the percentage of systems that met these requirements. Another new credit is about installed controls. Again, this is an alignment with BREEAM in use, and the project is rewarded based on the amount of controls that are installed for HVAC systems. Again, here is a specific calculation that needs to be carried out, and the project can achieve 2 + 1 exemplary credit if more than 80% system will have advanced functionality. And another section is about unregulated energy. The BREEAM version 7 introduced or combined the previous credits in 2 separate credit. One is about energy efficient equipment and one is about energy efficient system. To determine the number of credits, we need to understand the systems that are in project scope, and depending on these systems and the amount of energy, of unregulated energy, we need to report to regulated energy, run some calculation and determine the percentage to see how many credits can be achieved. Overall, in terms of energy efficiency, the requirements remain similar with the previous version. For external lighting, we need to make sure that the lighting is efficient enough with average at least 70 kilowatts lumens per circuit watt. For the energy efficient equipment, again, there are the European labels used for reporting, and there are some additional labels that are recognized by the methodology. And yeah, I think this is the summary of the technical updates for these key aspects. Yeah. Becky, you are on mute, but I think you are saying something interesting.
Yeah, the final section was on focus on operational performance. So as I mentioned at the beginning, there is this increased emphasis on operational performance and this sort of in-use disclosure. So a shift to start to support bridging this performance gap. The key one being this new credit issue of a prediction of operational energy. So this was already in the version 6 scheme as 4 credits, but it's been provided as its own separate credit issue now. The structure's been slightly adjusted to ensure that this energy strategy is carried out, which we'd expect most projects to be carried this out anyway. And then the predictive energy modelling and risk assessment and mitigation very much replicates what we currently know as the prediction of operational energy credits for the 4. The main addition is this additional availability of up to 7 credits, where we can look to predict how well the building will perform operationally. Again, we haven't seen, or we don't know how these benchmarks will fully align yet, but there is the opportunity here to gain up to 7 credits depending on what we anticipate the building will perform like in operation. So there's a big sort of emphasis on this section. There's also the exemplary level performance, so aligning with neighbours, as we mentioned earlier, to disclose in-use energy performance, or preparing for in-use measurement of energy consumption and this third-party validation. So committing to BREEAM in use or neighbours can help to support achieving these credits. And yeah, just ultimately, if we've got a committed client and we're really pushing a building forward, then this is picking up things like these exemplary level credits is going to be the way forward to start to close the gap on where we were performing under version 6. The other new introduction is a similar process, but for water. There's less credits available, 2 credits here, but it's encouraging us to think about how the building will perform in operation in terms of its water consumption. And again, exemplary level credits when we disclose our targets prior to completion of the project and when we're committing to measure in use water consumption, which again can be achieved by doing BREEAM in use. So encouraging us to think about the next life cycle of the building in terms of its assessment credentials. So there's some opportunities there again, but whether there's some considerations to be made in what the client or developer is happy to commit to, and whether there are any challenges with shell and core projects. But ultimately, it's a good step forward to start to close that performance gap. And the final one to talk about is this introduction of a zero carbon transition plan. So again, another exemplary level credit, only available for fully fitted projects, but it's looking at encouraging a developer to think about their decarbonisation pathway moving forwards. So a lot of larger organisations may already have this in place, but those that haven't yet, it's encouraging them to think about their future energy reduction pathway moving forward and sharing that planning. So we've done a bit of an analysis of how we think this is likely to impact some typical projects that we've worked on. Again, caveating that this is very much an estimate based on what we know of the current weightings, and as we've mentioned, there are some of the credit issues that have a variance in the number of credits available. We don't exactly know how that number of credits will be assigned because we believe it will be within the background of the platform, but we've made some best guesses based on what we know. So the first case study was a typical industrial shed, 3 units and a really well-performing building in terms of its energy performance. It was previously developed site, so there were some benefits to a lower baseline for ecology, and really good sustainable transport measures were implemented and worked well with the contractor in terms of levels of responsible sourcing. This was actually under 2018. So as a direct comparison, so really, comfortably over the excellent threshold, but under version 7, we believe it would fall slightly short of the excellent requirement. As you can see, in terms of the energy performance, it's the biggest change really, where we've only got sort of 21 credits available. Under the previous version, it shoots up to 35 is what we suspect a typical shell and core industrial building to the number of credits available. We've sort of mapped where we think our uplift strategy would be. So this is where we can start to close the gap, I think, on where we are currently sitting in terms of our target strategy by implementing some of these operational energy analysis. Again, with water, we sort of drop a little bit, but we can make up that shortfall by the operational water consumption targets as well. And then there's a slight drop as well in the innovation credits. So that's where we were achieving innovation credits for carrying out the LCA, so it was aligned with the life cycle costing and also the building services LCA process. They're no longer separate exemplary level credits, which is why it looks like we've dropped in terms of innovation. But as I've mentioned, there are opportunities to pick up things like disclosing targets and committing to looking at that commitment to operational energy, potentially with a future BREEAM in use commitment. So there were definitely, although this sort of shows a direct comparison, we believe there are lots of opportunities to start to push that score back up to where it was meant to be. This is also, obviously, we haven't run any of the simulations against kind of the current benchmark, so we don't quite know where the benchmarks will sit, so it is a bit of a worst case scenario. And then another case study, this was a really high level performing university development, so it was a mix of teaching space and student accommodation. Really pushing everything at this one, so it went through the whole life full planning piece in terms of whole life carbon, circular economy, loads of landscaping, and biodiversity net gain was 20% improvement. So really high performing scheme, which we're on targeting a 95.2% at the moment, outstanding, with an extra credit as a potential. Under version 7, we did drop down a similar ratio, sort of 6-7%. But again, that's a direct comparison, so without mapping how it will perform operationally. So again, we think with the uplift strategy, we can start to close that gap, and actually maybe even better because of the because we've got a really we've got a client that's really wants to push this scheme as far as possible. We have made the assumption that they would be willing to start to make some of these commitments, and it would perform well operationally. And we've got a bit of flexibility there. We can start to pick up and close that shortfall. And we think that it would benefit this type of scheme quite well. So giving you a bit of an idea, a bit of a flavour of what we think the difference will be. But as I say, we yet to see the final weightings, so that may alter slightly. Thinking about next steps moving forward, conscious of time, as I mentioned, the refurbishment fit out manuals updates are to come next. We've been told that the refurbishment scheme should align with new construction with about 85% of the content, so we can expect to see similar updates in terms of these introductions with operational performance and sort of the change with the lighting requirements. We should expect to see them replicated in the refurbishment scheme. With fit out, as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a smaller fit for purpose separate scheme. We do find the fit out assessments really challenging with sort of small retailers, even when they're pushing for really high levels of sustainability. It's very difficult to do a BREEAM fit out assessment. So we're hoping that will be much better aligned with market requirements. But yeah, as I say, we're yet to see what that manual will look like. And then some other scheme updates. We understand that following this version 7 suite of updates, communities and infrastructure will be revisited as well. And home quality mark has been a slight shift to look at assessments carried out at the building level rather than the dwelling type level, which should make some of the challenges with energy performance and sort of LCA modelling a little bit easier. So we wait to hear a bit more on that. So I think our key takeaways really of how we think we can succeed under version 7 is crucially, as we always say, really just engage with us or your BREEAM AP, whoever your BREEAM specialist is, as soon as possible is just fundamental, because there's still a lot of credits that require early engagement, early stage considerations and recording and reporting, even more so with the low carbon design changes, thinking about the orientation of the building right at the outset. It will be a lot of the things that you're doing already, but it's just recording that and making sure that we've got everything sort of aligned with the evidence requirements for BREEAM. And just embedding BREEAM within that outline strategy. So eliminating fossil fuels where possible, thinking about that overarching low carbon strategy, and carrying out the full suite of LCA stage assessments, and engaging with ecologists. There's still a big chunk of credits that require an ecologist to be engaged, so just thinking about that, and I guess any other third-party specialists as well. And I think the other crucial key thing as well to hit the higher levels of achievement is to have this really good engagement with the client or end user to think about carrying out these operational reviews and committing to targets and future disclosures as well. Excellent. So if that's sort of, we're drawing to a close now, but if there are any, if you want to find out about how we can, if you would like a more structured CPD specific to your organization, or maybe a meeting to look at a bespoke project or an existing project that we're working with you on that you'd like to run against what we think version 7 will look like in terms of the scoring, please reach out. We've got the opportunity to book a organization level CPD or one-to-one meetings. And we've got a white paper coming out soon on our thoughts behind on the version 7 update, so look out for that. And of course, there are going to be further updates from the BRE in the coming weeks, so we'll be sure to share those with yourselves as we learn more. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for your time. I'm not sure if Ancuta, if you can see if we've had any questions.
We have some comments, but it seems that Sanjay from BRE is responding, so all the key admin things regarding the new versions are responded. There is a question if we are going to share the presentation, and for sure, yeah, we will share the presentation to everyone. Also, there is a question if we are aware the reason for not accepting Ersus heat pump in low zero carbon technology study. And another question regarding the life cycle assessment methodology, if these will follow the RICS second edition. I think
yeah, I can see the question that now. In terms of RICS, it wasn't one that was mentioned. So it was a question I asked in the last webinar with the BRE, and they only mentioned LETI and UK Net Zero Carbon Building Standard. So that is one I'm not sure about at the moment, but we haven't seen the benchmarks from the BRE at all at the moment. So hopefully that will, as I say, hopefully the manual will be in sort of April time. So we'll hopefully know a little more then. And in terms of air source heat pump, I don't know if they have said anything. So I can't really help there. Obviously, we're just feeding back what we know of the manual at the moment. Will HQM remain, or will it evolve into BREEAM UK new construction? No, it was, as far as we're aware, HQM will remain. And as I mentioned at the end, there will be an updated version of that to align with some of those changes that I mentioned. And will version 7 UK and international be combined? No. So moving forward, at the moment for version 7, our understanding is that UK and international schemes will be separate. Oh, I just see Sanjay has responded to all these comments. Fantastic. Thank you, Sanjay. Yes, so there'll still be 2 versions, and hoping for alignment with version 8. Oh, I was going to say the right thing. That's great. Thank you, Sanjay, for helping with those responses. Excellent. I think they were all the questions. Fantastic. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. We can share the slides, as Ancuta mentioned. But yeah, feel free to sign up to our newsletter or drop either of us an email, and we'll be happy to help. Hopefully we will speak with some of you again soon. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.